I'm going to run you through exactly how you could make your very own resin earrings. Resin earrings are the perfect way to showcase your creativity, and they are easier than you think. My name is Chrissy and I'm going to run you through exactly how you could make your very own resin earrings. Let's stop chatting, let's get making. Okay, so before we get to the fun part, let's go over the things that you will need to create your very own resin earrings. So firstly, you will need resin. Our Resi Clear is amazing for small casted projects, so this is what I'll be using today. You'll also need a mixing ratio cup or some form of measuring cup because you need to work out your measurement. 2:1 mixing ratio is our Resi Clear, which if you don't have a mixing ratio cup is a good way to think of this is your part A is your 2 part and your part B is your 1 part. So if, say for instance, I've got 40 mils of my part A, I need half in my part B, so 20 mils, and that will give me my 60 mils. If you have a mixing ratio cup, it's super easy, and I'll show you how that works. The other things you're going to need is, of course, your earring molds. There's no particular one, this is just the one that I'm using today. Mixing stirrers, little cups to divide up your resin so you can color them however you want. Pipettes, if you find that you don't necessarily need to use these, but you might find for some of the little fiddly bits they're handy, so with pipettes. And also later on I'm going to show you if you want to dome your earrings. Now some of you might be like, what is doming? I'll cover off that later. It is a different resin for the top coat, but for now let's just do the earring side of things. The other really important thing that you're going to need is gloves. They're super important to make sure you're wearing them anytime you work with the resin. These are the ones that I use here. Also, lastly, your colors that you want to add into your resin. So depending on whatever you want to create, we have all different pigments here for this. So what I'm going to use today is I'm actually going to go bright and use our juicy pink, our citrus and our Nemo glitters together to make some really bright earrings. Okay, well, time to mix up. Firstly, as I said earlier, make sure you pop on your gloves. Now I know some people might come at me that I'm not wearing a respirator. The resin that I am working with doesn't require me to wear a respirator, but it does require me to wear gloves. Okay, now a handy tip once you've put your gloves on is to remember if you need to touch your hair, face or anywhere else to take them off before you touch anything because they may have resin on them and you don't want resin anywhere else. Another thing that I have done before I start the mixing is I have covered my table with plastic and I have covered my floor. I've actually just got some of that black builder's plastic that I've laid out on the floor so that my carpet doesn't end up with any resin on it. So if you are working somewhere where you do not want resin, make sure you cover everything up before you even start mixing up. All right, now that we have done that, let's mix. So as I said before, it's a 2:1 mixing ratio. So let me explain how this works. On my cup, I find where it tells me 2:1 mixing ratio and I look for how much I want to mix up. I only want a small amount for my earrings. So 50 mils is where I'm going to go. So I go to my 2 column and I will pour my part A into that 2 column. I'm going to show you. Now you're looking from the outside, so it may be slightly different. I always look from the inside in, so it's the right way around for me. And I will go to the line. Okay, perfect. So that's my part A, is, as you can see, to the line of the first one. Now I'm going to grab my part B and I'm going to go on top of what I've already poured to my second one. in the one column. Okay, perfect. If this is out, my whole project's going to be out. So it's super important to get this part right. The next really important thing is I'm going to stir this for 4 to 5 minutes and I'm going to scrape down the sides. So you'll see me just take my stick and scratch down the sides and touch the bottom of my cup to make sure I've stirred it. Now, something that I do want to make a note of is that a lot of people will also say you shouldn't use a wooden stirrer. The reality is it's not going to make that much difference to the bubbles that my resin makes. Resi Clear is designed, especially formulated to release those bubbles to the surface, and I'll just pop those bubbles once they come to the surface. So do take your time stirring and try not to incorporate too many extra bubbles, but using a wooden stirrer isn't going to make much of a difference there. Okay, I'm going to come back to you once this is all stirred up. Okay, so the next step, now that we're all mixed up, is to get my little cups to divide out my colors so that I can put my glitter in. Let's do that. We've got 3 colors, so we've got 3 little cups. Time to pour. Okay, let's put our glitter in. We're going to start with our Nemo. I love, love, love this color. I'm not a big orange fan, but Nemo is stunning. Now, when it comes to fine glitter, more is more, meaning put more. A lot of people stop at a little bit thinking glitter can be overpowering if I can speak properly, but in this case it definitely makes it a lot brighter and vibrant with more. Now, a good way to know if you have enough or if you're happy with that coloring is to use your stick, because if I can see the stick behind the glitter, then I know I don't have enough. If I can't, then I've done good. But what I'm going to do is when I mix up the next color, I'm going to show you what happens when I don't mix that much in. So I did put a lot in. So let's grab citrus, and I'll show you what happens if I only put a little bit in and why I put more. Okay, so I'm actually, you might still think that this is crazy, but I put 2 little scoops there. I'm going to mix this. I'm going to move this out the way, move this over here. And whilst in the cup it looks pretty good, right? I'm going to put it on my stick and see how you can't really see the vibrancy of the color. It kind of goes very, yeah, opaque. That's the word I'm thinking of. That is why, watch what happens when I put a lot more glitter in. Let's go. Okay. Now, there is a point of too much glitter, so do take it slow in adding the glitter. I've just done this quite a few times that I've started to really notice. Again, I probably will still put a little bit more. Let's go, one more. So it's heaps more vibrant. And then I know that it's going to be okay. So what's happening is when we're in depth, because of the depth and how much it is, it looks darker, but when we go into our mold, we're only going about 3 mils in. That's why it starts to go a little bit translucent when you have less. I'm gonna put the lid on this one and we're gonna do Juicy Pink. Juicy Pink is stunning pink. It looks like so much glitter. But once you mix it in, it really isn't. Now, if you do add too much glitter, you will notice that your resin will thicken a lot. And it's interesting, an interesting fact is that once you add the glitter, it does speed up the curing process a little bit. Okay, so here is our pink, which I really, really love. And these are our 3 colors, ready to go. I'm gonna pull those sticks out and put those away, out of my way. Trying not to make mess. But mess does say you've had fun, right? Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my earring mold. This is the one that I'm using today, and I'm going to use a few different styles because we've got studs and we've got hanging earrings and all sorts of stuff. We're just going to put that down and start putting in our colors. Now I kind of want it to be sporadic. Now you can pour or you can pipette. For the smaller ones, I'm going to use the pipette, but for the bigger ones, I'm just going to pour them in. So let's try and keep it consistent. I'm just going to randomly put it in to make some really bright, cool. You can do this anyway. This is the creative side. Like, this is where you show your ideas come to life. The thing I like about the earrings is it's a nice place to start to get to know how the resin's going to work for you. As you can see, I'm trying to replicate the same thing, but that's super, super hard to do. So I love this orange and the pink. So nice. And we did pick some colors that would really pop. Oh, that's way too much. Let's show you what to do if that happens to you. Too busy talking. You can grab a pipette and just take out some excess resin. I think I want the little hearts to be like pink and just orange, a little bit of orange. Trying a few different methods, playing around with it. This really is just let your creativity flow. Whatever you're feeling. Something so therapeutic about just creating. That's it. Now, what you'll notice is you might see some bubbles on the surface. My preferred method to get these popped is to just use a spritz of isopropyl alcohol before they cure. If they cure with those bubbles, they'll never go away. So I'm just going to give it a light spritz over the top. All my bubbles are gone. And now I'm going to leave this to cure overnight, but I have some that I've prepared earlier of all different types and methods of making earrings. So let me put these aside and grab the ones I made earlier. Okay, so I'm not going to make you wait overnight. Let's just show you some other earrings that I have created using different methods. So we have glittery ones, and I've used some metallic and mixed some colors. I also use some gold foil here to make this style. There's so much you can create when making your own resin earrings. So just playing around with what you would like. So this is what they'll come out the mold like, but there is a technique called doming that you can do with your earrings. And let me show you what that looks like. So I'm just gonna grab an earring and show you it not domed versus domed. So whilst they are fine and you don't have to dome them, adding a doming resin on top can give you a little bit more of a nicer finish. There are a few reasons why you might want to dome your earrings. Sometimes your molds might be dull and you might have a bit of a dull finish, or you might just not like that it's so flat. Doming just adds an extra dimension to your earrings and sets them aside from all others. So, without further ado, let me explain to you how to dome your earrings to take them to the next level. So if you're really observant, you might have noticed that my bottle's changed here. I have Resi Glaze instead of Resi Clear, and that is purely and simply because this is the perfect top coating resin and doming resin. So it works a little bit differently and is designed for that thin 4mm top coat, and it will give me the ultimate gloss when doing my doming. So let's mix it up. It works exactly the same. It's still a 2:1 mixing ratio, so the mixing process is the same. The only thing that you do need to keep in mind when using Resi Glaze is to make sure you shake your part A before you start mixing. Now you're probably wondering, why do I have to shake it? Wouldn't that make bubbles and things like that? There is actually a secret sauce inside Resi Glaze that when sitting on the shelf can sink to the bottom. So all I'm doing is making sure that that's all mixed in there before I start mixing my two parts together. And it's secret, like Willy Wonka. Okay, we're back and my resin's all mixed, ready to go. You will notice that it's a little bit glazy, hence the name glaze, but when it's applied, it does go clear. So I'm just going to sit this aside because it's really important that we get a mat like this one to put our earrings on. Now, a really important note is to make sure that the surface we're working with is level. So I've got this handy dandy level that I keep with me all the time. I'm just going to make sure that we're good to go. And as you can see, my surface is level, so we're good to use this right now. I'm going to lay out my earrings, all my different types of earrings, onto this mat. It's a silicone mat, that way they won't stick to it if for some reason I have a little bit of overflow. So we're just gonna lay them out. Okay, so now that all my earrings are laid out ready for me to glaze them, I am going to grab a pipette. This is really good to control how much you put on it. Pouring may mean that you have a lot on there and it might fall off the sides. Now, I personally prefer less cleanup or less sanding later on. So what I do is when I do this process, I try not to put too much. I start with a little bit and add more as it's needed. So I will just pop some drops onto my piece. I might just put a few more. And you will notice that this will try and level itself. Well, it will level itself, not try, it will, which is why we made sure our surface was level before we started. Now, like I said, less is more, just pushing it out to the sides, not trying to put too much on there. And it's good to get nice and closely. Okay, that one's done and I'm going to do the rest. Now again, if I had have used my clear resin as my top coat, I would find that it wouldn't want to go to the edges. It will want to pull away from the edges. Or if I put too much, it would want to float over the edges. So this is perfect because it's not trying to do those things. Again, if I put too much down, yes, it will try and go over the edges. But if I put the right amount, it's perfect. The other thing you will notice while I'm doing this is there aren't any bubbles once I put it down on this. So I'm not going to have to use a spritz of isopropyl. I'm not going to have to use heat. It's just going to
right.
Okay, so now those ones are all done. I'm gonna leave these to cure overnight and they'll be good to go. I can then put my jewelry fittings to them. Now, if you're a polymer clay artist and you're wondering if you can use the resin on top of your polymer clay pieces, the answer is yes. Just always give it a light sand before you go over the top of it, just to create that bond. Now, another thing to note with resin is I casted these within 72 hours, so I was able to go straight on top. But if I didn't, and it had been more than 72 hours, I would need to give them a light sand before I glaze them too. I hope this has been helpful. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or anything that I didn't cover. And I hope to see you on our next video. Make sure to like and subscribe.